face, and he's not pretty.
He's always angry. He's always angry. And that's why I think people like Joe Biden, because he's just nice. You know, he's a nice guy. You were going to say something, Sue?
I can't have you got any sense of the youth vote for Biden? Because we know that there's still a bunch of the Bernie young people. And once my grandson, I'm just a little horrified. But
well, you're right.
Anyway, do you have any sense where he is with the younger?
You know, I taught at UNLV for 35 years, political science, and I have not figured out what it is about that angry old 70-something-year-old guy that appeals to young people. And they don't really know what socialism is. No, they don't. And it's just, so, I don't know. Certainly, young people are, they're spread across the board. More for Bernie, and that's not Biden's strength. He's got his share, but it's not his strength. His strength is older people, African Americans, ethnic communities, labor. That's more his strength. So we've just got to do the best we can turning those groups out, and then, you know, realize we got to play to our strengths.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I did remember what I was going to ask you. Yeah, I think we should get rid of the caucuses.
Yeah.
Because it is, just listening to the discussion here of how difficult it is to change.
Yes, and it's hard.
I think that's right.
Yeah, and something I learned in Nevada is a lot of people that live here aren't originally from here, right? Everyone here is kind of transplant, is how I've learned it's called. And something that was hard for me to understand is going from, I grew up in Indiana, went to school in Wisconsin and stuff like that. So when I go to vote, I'm used to paper ballot, I'm used to coloring the dot, and I'm used to walking in and walking out the door. I'm not used to standing around in a corner and trying to fight for who we should win. And like I completely understand your opinion there with the confusing caucus system. It's very hard to teach someone,
And we don't have the culture that Iowa has, and they can't even pull it off. And Sue's right, the rules keep changing every time, and it's about being more transparent, and yet it's more confusing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it move for that.
I think Iowa's done it.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think Iowa will be first anymore after all of that. We'll see.
Because you have to battle in those caucuses.
I was taken back yesterday listening to Chuck Todd on MSNBC saying that Nevada will be determined by the back room of the casinos.
No.
He seriously said that?
Yeah.
Well, there are some polling places for early vote in the casinos, but that's not what he's talking about. That is to accommodate all those workers who go around the clock. That's where, that's who will
That's what I
vote
think
there.
of the back room.
But it is kind of funny. People have such misconceptions of us, because when I was in Iowa and was talking about Nevada, I did use it as kind of a joke line. Well, in my district, you can vote in the back of a casino, and they thought, what is that? Only in Nevada. But it's really to help those culinary workers. And those culinary workers should be supporters of Biden. I don't know if they'll formally endorse, but I believe they will support him because he's so strong on labor, and because he just wants to expand Obamacare, not throw it out. And they have spent so long negotiating for good health care instead of raises sometimes that they don't want to lose that protection.
There was just a big article in this that and it was on the local news about that very issue.
Oh, really? Good. That's good.
Yeah.
In canvassing today, it was encouraged to me that when I run across a Bernie person who is obviously younger, one of the things I might mention is that if Bernie were the candidate, I'd be glad to be out here working and canvassing for him too, trying to show them that if theirs is not, then maybe there's the right path for them to go down.
That's good. That's good. Because the most important thing is getting this person out. And that's going to take all of us. But we have, we can't win I keep saying this, we can't win the popular vote and lose the electoral college vote again. I mean, we just cannot.
I'm going to be out of town on the 22nd. I can still early vote?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to do that.
15 to the 18th.
Early vote.
Is anybody here from the Nevada Dems who knows about you?
Well, we need
Yes.
to.
Yes.
So they had Morgan, who's a volunteer on our central committee in Churchill County, was going to some meeting tonight. That's why she can't be here.
Oh,
And then
right.
they're talking about that, and I don't know. She said that she'll update tomorrow.
Okay.
And then to follow up on your point, when I'm on the door, the way I use it is, no matter what happens, I'll be back on your door in the fall because we got to get rid of Donald Trump.
Yes,
so he's
right.
saying,
That's a good one.
yeah.
That's a really good line, yeah.
And then just a question for not just the congressman, but anybody involved in the campaign. What are you doing to reach out to the tribal community? I work for a federally recognized tribe. I don't speak for them. I have to be very careful to say that. But I would just encourage you to reach out to them.
That's
Yeah, we've reached out directly to the individual chairmen. We're also working with the Native American Caucus in Marshall County, so we're definitely making.
And you're talking to Arlen?
We have reached
Yes.
out.
And Senator and also former Secretary Ken Salazar was recently here in Las Vegas, was recently south in Las Vegas, and he was able to not only attend the state Democratic, committee meetings, but he was able to speak directly to the Native American caucus, and they were very excited to have him there to represent the Biden team, and then he was able to also speak to the local caucus as well.
There was a really good piece on Science Friday yesterday about Native American culture, and it was about fire mitigation and water and what happens above happens below, what happens below happens above. It was fantastic talk. I mean, it was one of those sit in the car and finish listening to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm gonna listen to it again because it's so important. They're of this state, they're of this land, they're tens of thousands of years.
They're on their site.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you mentioned the electoral college, and I was disappointed when our governor vetoed the popular vote bill. I was surprised, and I was very disappointed, because I think the electoral college favors who, and the Republicans. And he being a Democrat, I was surprised.
I think we should get rid of the electoral college because it doesn't serve the purpose that it was originally intended to serve when they wrote the Constitution. I think his feeling about it, and I'm a little this way too, is that doing it state by state puts you at a disadvantage. What we need to do is do it at the federal level and just get rid of it all the way across the board. And I think there's growing sentiment to do that, just like this business about the cost.
But they have, you have to get 270, and you can bypass the electoral college. And they have 160. Other states have already done it.
Oh.
And I think there's 160 cumulative votes already.
Oh, I didn't realize there was that many.
I think it was, I'm suggesting this, that somebody that you and I know well put pressure on the governor because they endorsed the governor in a primary, and so he brought the caucus to our state.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I did. That was how we originally got the caucus.
Yes, yes. And I think that's what happened.
Could have been. Could well been.
There's one other thing I noticed in my neighborhood. I live on a street with only 12 houses, and we've got connecting streets on either side. The neighborhood's been there in Northwest Reno for 30 years. All of our neighbors, we get out in the middle and we all talk, and we have Christmas parties every year, so we celebrate each other's birthdays. It's really cool. And I have, out of 12 houses, there are 6 Mormon families that live there. They're all very upset about what happened in Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
They are really furious.
Good. And good. They have all changed their votes. Good.
They all had a meeting.
It should be
today.
awful.
Good.
Wow. Well, and that goes back to that point y'all were making about healing and reaching across the aisle and that whole notion that we used to be a big tent as opposed to leaving people out if they're not ideologically exactly like
I think
so that's great news.
He's going to lose Utah because of it. He'll lose Utah.
He already has. Most people in Utah don't care about Donald Trump at all.
Oh, yeah.
You don't, it's not for sale.
That's right.
And they cross the line. That line was crossed and it cannot be uncrossed.
Yeah, and it had the prayer breakfast.
I know.
I just cannot get over that.
Just add on to that, I ran into a person at the door today who was upset about that, who's independent, and I convinced him to register temporarily as a Democrat to vote in the caucus, because if we don't reach out to people and say, well, you're gonna get stuck with whoever us socialists select if you don't, if you don't go vote. So they can always register back.
That's right.
But I would encourage you to encourage them to register to vote in the caucus.
That's great, that's great. Well, I'm feeling good about it. I mean, I think things are moving our way. The debate was strong. Trump looks so awful. The other candidates, I think Elizabeth Warren is kind of waning. I think she's peaked. I think people are starting to take a hard look now that it's getting down to brass tacks at all the other candidates. And I'm optimistic, but we just got to get the turnout here in Nevada.
I think Elizabeth Warren is also kind of abrasive.
Some people think that.
Bouncy cheerleader.
Well, I was a strong supporter of Hillary's. I could never leave her out. I still can't believe she didn't win. But
Well, you know, if we had the popular
well, that's right. She did win.
She did.
3 million more
She
votes.
did.
Yeah.
And Bernie Sanders had a big part in her defeat.
A big part.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think I missed this earlier, but as you go forward toward November, what is going to be the winning message for Congress people like yourself and for the presidential candidate, whether it's Joe Biden or somewhere else, do you think?
Well, you know, the way we won in 2018, which was a big year and a big increase in the number of members of the House and also number of women in the House, the biggest, two things, the biggest issue, and it still polls the biggest, is health care. People are so worried about losing their health care, the high cost of drugs, you know, these proposals now to cut back on Medicaid, Medicare. So health care will be a big issue. And Biden's position is you build on Obamacare. You allow the Medicare, you allow the Obamacare to bargain for drug costs like the VA can. I don't know how they got that in there, how many years ago. You give Medicaid to those states that didn't adopt it, you spread it there, that's another thing. And you go after a high cost of drugs for individuals. So he's going to build on that Obamacare, and so I think that is the biggest issue. The other way that we win is that you support candidates who look like their districts and sound like their districts. And that's why Bernie at the top is so dangerous. There were 2 new women members of Congress in Iowa. First time that any women, and Democrats, they took Republican seats. They were both out there on the campaign trail with us, stumping for Biden, and he had campaigned for them because they're in those suburban swing areas, and you start talking too extreme of everything giveaway and raising taxes and costs how many trillions of dollars, they will be hurt down the ticket. So if you have that unifying message and you play to the issues of your district and you look like your district, you don't try to be something else, I think that's how we win. Just the notion of bringing back some sanity, I think.
I have one question. I think, I don't know where I heard this or read this, but there is some chatter in the White House to go after Biden, you know, to continue to open up their investigation to him. And so, if that happens,
well, look
if
what
that
they did.
happens, what does Biden have any plans right now to try to either not defend himself, he doesn't need to defend, but to counter to it? Is there any kind of you know, forward plan?
Well, the problem is the counter is the truth, and they won't tell the truth.
Right.
I mean, look what they did to Hillary Clinton with the emails for how long, and with Benghazi, and so they will. I'm sure they'll continue to come after Biden and his son. But the thing is, when Biden went after the person in Ukraine, it wasn't because that person was investigating his son and he wanted to get rid of him. It was because all the NATO countries want to get rid of him. The president's agenda was to get rid of him. Bipartisan support in the Congress, the Foreign Affairs Committees want to get rid of him. And that, you know, but by the time you start telling that, if people want to believe the opposite, you know, that's what they do. And they will come with they don't mind telling anything. They'll say anything. There's no shame there. Tim?
With the retaliation against some of the witnesses yesterday, and the Senate getting Hunter Biden's tax records, and you guys haven't gotten the president's, and I guess the hotel is kind of up for sale for like $500 million. What do you think the leadership approach on your side is going to be to these, you know, what otherwise would be like huge issues, other than the fact that...
Well, two things. Democrats want to prove that we can legislate, not just investigate. So we've got the, you know, we passed 400 and some bills that are sitting over there in the Senate that the Equality Act, equal pay for equal gun violence. I mean, these are big things, and he's just sitting on them. All he's doing is cranking out judges who are anti-choice. So that's the problem. So the next big agenda item is infrastructure, and so that will be the policy push. I'm still going forward with the emoluments investigation. That's the committee that I chair, and now we can really kind of get into it. They stonewalled us on all that other information, but yeah, his hotel, you know, people stay in his hotel, and he didn't put it in a blind trust like all other presidents have. His children run it, so every time somebody stays there, he makes money. Right. So all these foreign dignitaries who are trying to curry favor stay in that hotel. And also some local government, state government people stay there. Now, in the Constitution, you cannot do that. But they won't give us the records. You know, he's got the Attorney General on his side. It's very hard to do. But now that he's trying to sell it for a price much higher than it's worth, we can look into that and be sure that he doesn't sell it just to some LLC of his friends so that, you know, they're bailing him out. Or some foreign country, like Russian oligarchs or maybe Saudi Arabian princes or whatever, to try to keep an eye on that. It's hard to get those tax returns though, because the court and the Justice Department keeps ruling against us. Yes, absolutely. The FBI building was supposed to, he wanted to move the FBI building out to a new, they were going to move it to a new place because where it is now, that building's just gone, you know, it was in bad shape. So it would have been cheaper to build a new building and move them out there than to rehab it. He stepped in and said, no, we're going to rehab it, keep the FBI building there, because if they had moved, that would have been property that would have been available to develop, that would have been competition to the hotel. I mean, that's the way it is. It's unbelievable. And you know, that was a really good line that the Vice President had in the debate, where he said we should be pinning a medal on Vinland, not on yeah, they got a standing ovation. So
the military's paying attention right now. I've got two nephews that are in the military, and they are like not happy.
Well, you know, the former Secretary of the Navy that he got rid of because he disagreed with him on that overturning that ruling. He's come out for Bloomberg. He said we've got to have somebody that looks out for the country, not somebody like that. So I think they are paying.
I think they should all turn on him.
Never thought I'd pull for a military coup, but
time is right. I know. Time is called for.
Was that troubled times called for trouble?
Yes. Drastic measures. That was the neighborhood that I live in. Tracy Raggio lives across the street from me. And so I knew her dad, and you know, her dad was doing this work with Alzheimer's because of his first wife. And Tracy was just, she went to all the Obama meetings with me, you know, at Billinghurst, and
She was a teacher, wasn't she?
Yeah,
You know her.
she's still teaching at Westergaard. But she and I have had some great talks, and she had a little garage sale. She always has one twice a year, so everybody goes there because she has great stuff. And she had this JFK picture, a black and white, taken by the White House photographer, and it had JFK with Lyndon Johnson's back, and JFK's turned around with these really cool sunglasses on. I said, "How much is that?" And she goes, "Oh, you're a neighbor, take it." I said, "I'll give you $5." My mom would want me to give me so many. But I mean, my mom, if she could have seen that, she would have been so happy. I mean, oh my gosh.
That's very nice.
Yeah, she's voting for Biden.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, she said sanity is really important. But I also want to tell you, there's a really good little book I found at Sundance Books. It's about this big. It's called Gardens of Democracy.
Oh. By
Eric Liu, L-I-U, and Nick Hanauer. And they were on all the talk circuits back when they published it. Eric Liu has some TED Talks that you can watch. He teaches citizenry at, I think it's Stanford or one of the colleges. It's an excellent read.
Seeds of Democracy?
It talks, yeah, it's Gardens of Democracy. And it talks about gardening, that beautiful garden that you've been given. You have to sow it, you have to maintain that beautiful garden of democracy. If you don't, you will lose it. You can't have machine brain, you've got to have garden brain. And it is the most beautiful little read. I mean, it's a little tiny thing you can just carry with you. And
well, that's
I've got it with me all the time now.
Franklin said, well, we've created a republic if we can keep it.
Right. Exactly.
I gotta have one more book. I don't know where I'll put it, but I'll
more books. So are you teaching younger?
I am.
What's your feeling from students on campus?
Well, Bernie, a lot, yes, I did a lot of strategic asking about, and also just emailing some of my colleagues, and up at the university right now is heavy burden.
I think it's just kind of.
I invited quite a few people. Yeah, it is, and even persons who are undecided, I said, that's what this is for. So I don't know if any one of you are from the email or some talks, some reaching out that I did, but they were not necessarily excited to come. Just, I'm not sure what keeps them back. And I said, this is precisely where you want to be if you're undecided.
But they've got to know more history, and that's what I'm so glad my
History?
parents taught us. I'm so glad our parents taught us, because when Ted Kennedy passed away, I remember being the oldest. I remembered my parents talking in Orange County, California, and we were all around the John Birch Society and the far right and all that going on. But they made sure we knew what all these people were doing on Capitol Hill for us. And when my dad moved us to Alexandria, Virginia in 1967 when he was in the CIA, I got to go to those halls. I got to go meet my congressmen and senators, and we take the bus for 25 cents from high school and go and talk to people about the war, and we talked to veterans who were against the war. And so when Ted Kennedy passed away, my mom was laying there with Alzheimer's, and I'm writing a card to his family. Thank you so much for giving up your time and allowing him to do what he did. And I listed everything he was responsible for that changed my mom's life, my grandparents' life, my life, my son's life. I mean, everything, and future generations. And you know, it was about 4 weeks later, I get a little card from Hyannisport, this big. And it was like, Hyannisport, I don't know anybody in Hyannisport. I opened it up, and it just said, thank you, with a black border on it.
Very nice.
I mean, but they made a difference. You've made a difference. You know, Sue Wagner's made a difference. I mean, I so appreciate what you've done.
Well, we couldn't do it if we didn't have y'all helping us get elected. And that's why Joe Biden needs y'all so much and appreciates it. This Nevada, I say it, all eyes are on Nevada. This is going to propel him to get the nomination. And he says himself, we are fighting for the soul of this nation.
I just have one comment. How is his health? How is his health?
Well, somebody asked him, aren't you a little too old? And he challenged him to a push-up contest.
That was good.
Yeah.
Some touch me better than Bernie.
Well, that's right.
Yes.
And I've been telling people most presidents sleep, what, 4 hours a night, which is not very good for your heart.
That's right.
So
I think he's, I don't think he'd be doing it if he weren't in good shape.
Yeah.
One thought we had about Biden was, he was our initial choice, and then we watched the first 2 debates and thought, ooh, I'm not sure this is gonna work. But we went to hear him speak in Sparks, and we just wished
I know.
that person would be on the debate stage.
Yeah.
And well, he talked about not the other candidates, but some of the things that Trump has done regarding the environment, the regulations that he's got. They just approved a pesticide that allows them to kill bees. Yeah. And the children thing, all of that information came out, and he was really powerful.
He is so good in small groups or one-on-one. The debate stage isn't his strength.
No.
But then part of it's because he's not scripted. I swear, Mayor Pete, that his intonations, and he's got the same words every time. Well, sometimes you might cringe and wonder what's going to come out of Joe Biden's mouth. But you know it's sincere.
Right.
But that debate stage doesn't allow him to do just as you described. And you're right, he's so much better in a setting like that. But the last debate, I thought he was pretty strong because he was talking about foreign policy. And he knows more about that than anybody else.
I've also told my friends and even my family, my siblings, 2 of them don't listen that well, but when you if you're on Facebook and you want to click on something and share it, go look up the URL. Make sure it's something real. If it doesn't come up, you do not share that. You don't make any comments on it. Don't do anything. Just ignore it. Just keep moving on because you don't know where it's coming from.
That's right.
Dig deeper. I tell Susan, dig deeper.
Oh, yeah.
And keep digging.
Well, you're going to see more of that. I mean, there's no reason to think they're not going to do it in this election. They did in the last one.
Did you hear anything on Capitol Hill about block grants? I keep hearing
Medicare, they want to do block grants. That's what the Republicans always want to do, because they send it back to the states. And then that now creates inequities among the states that don't have a lot of money. So the Democrats in the House will oppose that. But the problem is, when he controls all the courts, and then he can do something administratively, and then you sue, if he controls the judge, then that makes it harder. It won't get through legislatively, but that's like the Obamacare, how he's tried to undo that through administration and regulation and now through the courts, because he can't get anything through the legislation. So you have to watch it. But yeah, that's the latest that they're talking about.
Well, I also heard a rumor, I don't know where I don't watch Fox, but I mean, I just heard a rumor that they were saying something about the machines were rigged or something, and it's like, so I went back and I looked at the history of all the major voting machines. Smartmatic out of Venezuela. We bought them from Venezuela with George W. Bush. Why would we buy anything from Hugo Chavez? I mean, just crazy stuff. And I mean, and then ESS and Diebold, I mean, those are all right-wing companies with proprietary software. They don't share their software. We have
That's
no
why
idea
you got to
where
be
they're
sure
running.
you get that paper trail.
That's why the paper trail is so important.
It is. Right. You're right. Well, they can't win an election; they'll steal it. So that's what you have to be careful about.
I got a very interesting poll call.
Oh yeah.
Boy, I'm digging deeper. All right, I get online. We've got caller ID, SIS. What they wanted to do is they wanted to record my phone calls with my voice.
Oh, really?
I said, you may not do that. First thing out of their mouth, how old are you? I said, I'm on speed dial for the Federal Trade Commission. I said, I'm not going to tell you that information because when I talked to the FTC, they said, you're being targeted by these scam artists.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, are you in the military? No. Are you a senior? Yes. She said, those 2 groups are really being targeted. I said, no, I'm not gonna tell you my age, and no, you can't record my voice. What are they up to now? I mean, if they were a Gallup poll, they would have just said, on Gallup poll, I would like to ask you some questions, and, you know, and they would launch into the questions. They wouldn't want to record your voice.
No, that is, I hadn't
You know,
heard of
isn't that scary?
Yeah, it is scary.
All they want to hear is if you, are you like so-and-so? You say yes, that's all, that's the only word they record. That could be applied yes to any other thing they
Yeah,
want to
they
use.
get your yes, and then they apply it to whatever they want to.
That's scary.